So what's up, YouTube? Another installment of a unboxing here. Got a few things coming through the mail today, and so figured I would pop these things open on camera again. And let's see what we got here. This first one, a rather large box. I don't know if we have something in here, maybe a lot of packing material or an album or something like that took up a little more space. Anyhow, so figured out, by the way, one of the coins I looked at yesterday was Russian. Mentioned that on my unboxing that I posted up, and found out that was from 1787, 15 kopeck silver coin from Russia, so maybe close to the oldest coin in my collection. Yeah, it looks like we do. We have some sets. So Roosevelt Mercury dimes and a mixture of a number of them. So got these from online auction, and let's see what we have. Pretty well packed. Alright. Yeah. No damage. These coins, the way they pack these up, and use bubble wrap envelope. Wow. Alright. So, a little baggy there. So we've got 25 mixed dates and mints. Please sell as one lot. And so this was, obviously a consignment issue, and if you look at how many of them there are here, 25, 25, and 50, so there's 100 Mercury dimes, so that is a really nice addition to the stack. And let's see what I was able to pick that up for. It looks like it was right around $100. Count them up, obviously, as we go here and take a look at some of the dates, see if we got anything. I have no idea. There might be some key dates in here, which would be pretty cool. Most of them look common. There's a lot of 40s and things like that. But if we may find some fill some holes in the collection, and then the rest of them, we'll stack as kind of our constitutional junk silver, or maybe make a small. If we get a small partial type set, I might go ahead and post that up on eBay and see if we can make a little the investment back. All right, another item here with package U.S. Postal package. Let's see what do we have here. This is one of those albums. This is a 44-piece complete Roosevelt set. Looks like some trash on there. So that's pretty cool. There we go. They got it folded in on itself, but you can see that this is a Roosevelt dime set. Starting at 46, it says complete, but it only goes to 62. So the silver set goes to 64, 60/40. I'm sure I have in my collection those that are missing, and so I'll fill those in, and they're in pretty good condition. These are circulated, so they're not perfect, but they're certainly good addition. Constitutional silver, you can't go wrong. Get them for, again, around spot price or so. We got another box here. This one is packed extremely well. Priority tape all on the outside. I'm doing a big no-no and cutting towards myself very cautiously. Probably no better way to get a bunch of subscribers and views on your YouTube video than to open a box using a knife, cutting towards yourself the wrong way, and accidentally slip. These are actually, what are these? Yeah, so these are all Buffaloes. These are Buffalo nickels. Love my Buffalo nicks, so these are probably about 2 rolls combined. And if I could pick these up at $10 cents a piece, I would usually grab them with dates, just because there's a pretty good market for them, and you know, you can fill a collection and then sell off the rest. And this is a 1953 proof set. You can see these are like in really nice condition. There's some scratches on the outside of this holder, but the coins themselves underneath there, if you can see the camera, they're really in nice 53 proof set. So these would have come back in the day, in the early 50s, up until 1955. They put these proof sets in these little green boxes that came with tissue paper and cellophane envelopes that were stapled together, and a lot of them deteriorated and the staple got rusty and affected the coins, or that fell apart, or the boxes got crushed. They were just thin cardboard square boxes, about 2 inch by 2 inch and about an inch high or so, and they would have the coins folded up and cellos stuffed in. With some point the mint switched over and started putting them in the envelopes that you see mint sets come in today, or proof sets. Proof sets are actually plastic encased, but the packaging of the 50s and all the way up until 1966, when they switched over, was actually in the paper envelopes and then in the cellophane, where you had all 5 coins on one side, and you could flip the cello over and see it. And it would come with a certificate of authenticity. But not having the box on these, I mean, obviously that would add some value, but these capital holders are really nice, and a lot of times people prefer them actually, and will buy it because they know the coin's been kept in good shape. And then this is another 53 set in a red capital holder. So the first one's black. This one looks generic actually. It doesn't have any writing on it. You can tell from the plastic. It's not capital, probably. It is some knockoff, but I've got other capital holders. I'll put it in one. But this is another 53 set. A little bit of toning you can see around the edge. I don't know if you can make that out on the camera. So I got both of these. I believe I'm gonna have to look for an invoice, but somewhere around, I want to say both of these were somewhere around $100, so a lot for a proof set that has about, I don't know, today's price, maybe $11 worth of melt value of silver. So you're looking at, $22 in melt value for the set, and obviously some numismatic value on the nickel and the penny, which are proof. And you could get something like this graded if you wanted, but I think for me, I've priced these out at somewhere around 150 each. So when I can pick up, a couple of them for less than that, then or at that price, then I'll go ahead and do it. And you could get something like this graded if you wanted, but I think for me, I've priced these out at somewhere around 150 each. So when I can pick up, a couple of them for less than that, then or at that price, then I'll go ahead and do it. But what do we have here? So we've got a 1942. It's in decent shape. There's some wear. No mint mark. So 42 Walking Liberty half, I should say. Another 1942 Walking Liberty half. No mint mark on that one either. A 40S. I would say they're in fine condition, probably. And for melt value, here's a 34, so there's an older date. No mint mark. So it looks like they wrote the mint marks on them, so I don't have to sit here looking for each one. And then there's a 63D, circulated, but in decent shape. Another 63D. Another 63D. All about the same shape. I go through and look at these and see if there's any kind of errors on them sometimes, and especially if you have certain years where there's common errors. Another 63D, boy, I got a lot of those. This is 64, so also all of these are 90% silver coins. That one looks, maybe almost uncirculated. And on these, what I will do is check the hair. It doesn't look like that there is the the alternate hair. They added some hair above the ear here after Jackie O saw this coin. She thought that it would make JFK's image look more handsome with some extra hairlines there above the ear. So you can make it out because it kind of forms a little bit of a V. This one I had me questioning. I'll look a little closer at that one under the magnifier later. But that's pretty much what to look for on these 90%ers, and these are pretty good, almost uncirculated, I would say. You know, maybe some bag dings on them, and that's about it. These might even be brilliant uncirculated. Just get used to seeing stuff in perfect condition out of a mint envelope, and when you see something with a bag mark, you know, sometimes you think it's almost uncirculated, but actually that's just, you know, the way it came when they were manufactured. So these are all 90%ers. Now, again, I don't see it on the hair issue there. Yep, those are all kind of original. And then this is an 1830. This is an 8 Reale coin. So that again that's actually going to be, and that's an interesting mint mark with the 10 DS there. 20 gram. It's 90% or 92.5. But it's an 1830 Mexico Reale, and this person thinks it's nice. And I would agree with them. This is really cool. I have 1 or 2 others of these in the collection, but when I see them come up and they go for cheap, even twice or 3 times spot because of the numismatic value, I usually go up to, you know, these probably have a melt value of $10 or $11 in silver, I would guess. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'll have to check the pricing, but at today's prices. And if you look at which spot price right now is about $16.50. So I think there's, you know, about 3/4 of an ounce here. And, you know, effectively, I usually go to about 2 times to almost 3 times the melt value on some of these coins that are this old. And as long as they're, you know, they have good relief, good images and stuff, and there's no major holes or scratches, or they're not worn down to a nub. And then on the edge of this is reeded. So, you know, one of the things I'll do, because I don't think I checked that, is just verify that, you know, this year when they made these, that was a reeded edge. Make sure it's not a counterfeit or something like that. And then this was a really worn down Morgan that I got for just like $1 over melt. That is a Hot Lips. So that is a variation called the Hot Lips Morgan. And basically what that was is just an obverse double die strike that turned into an extra upper lip or something like that, effectively. And the book on that, the Hot Lips Variety Double Die Obverse, worth $145 in very fine minimum kind of condition. So, you know, very likely, even as worn as this is, the lip is visible. You can see that extra line above her upper lip. And I would say, you know, you could probably get twice face value or better for something that worn, if not a lot more, you know, to the right collector or whatever. So if I get something for $1 over spot, I'll take it on something like that where there's a well-known error coin that comes up. Again, give you guys some links, but oh wow, this is kind of a really cool grab bag, if you will, or you know, sort of a box of goodies. I'm gonna adjust the camera so you get a better shot here. But so inside this box are some things that were very reasonably priced. These are some first year. At like $20 or less first year, and they're toned kind of cool. So let me just take it out. You can kind of see, you know, they got it all packaged in here. It's kind of like a treasure box, really. A legit modern treasure box. Can you tell I have teenage kids? When you get a guy in his 40s using the word legit, right? So that is an 86 Silver Eagle 1 ounce coin. And, you know, I'm going to guess that because of the way this holder feels, so this is like a soft plastic holder, and it's usually the crisp kind, not like this where it's flexible, are better for storing your silver so that you don't. Now, a lot of times what happens is you would get green marking over the years. They found that they contain a certain type of plastic and they're just horrible. And so the guys, even back in the 80s, were still using these occasionally. And or like, what is it, the non-PVC wasn't really prevalent then. But this one doesn't have any green on it. In fact, what it looks like, now I'm going to go ahead and switch this up so that it is in a more proper or appropriate holder. But look at the toning. It's like a rainbow. Oh my goodness, that is beautiful. I mean, just gorgeous. I mean, it's not evenly toned, but you got kind of, it's almost like it's coming from the sun. And let me zoom in here so you guys get a same view that I have on this. If I can find the, yeah. This is blow away. I mean, I just can't even begin to tell you. Look at the colors. There's blues and purples all up in here, and then there's like an orangish red that's radiating from the sun actually right up across Lady Liberty. Oh my gosh, that is just awesome. And then you probably give me some comments down below as I get anybody following this, telling me to put my glove on. But there's just a little bit of kind of rim toning on the back of that. So I don't know if it's coming from the flip, if I should maybe leave it in there. I think this is really the wrong kind, and probably I will put it in a proper flip, and that may alter or stop any toning, you know, but most of the toning I think comes more from age. So when you start having them because of some environmental impact like that, then you end up with, you know, usually I think a continuation of the same. So let's see here. I'm going to take this other one out, and it is the same exact thing. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous. Now this one's got kind of a reddish orange, and it radiates up about halfway up the eagle. You know, and a lot of people would think, you know, that's ugly. I mean, that's a ruined coin. It's almost like a hot spot. It's like red across the the flag drape, and yellowish red, but some of it's pretty deep, almost purple. So we're back. So this one, you can tell, is just absolutely reddish up here on the flag area, the drape. Anyway, these are interesting because these are first year, better mintage numbers, I believe. Also, just being a first year coin probably has some improved desirability with the numismatic kind of community. So as a silver stacker, you know, you really can't go wrong when you get these things for at or just above spot price, because you're going to have a good marketability on something like this that has some toning. You have a lot of people that like that sort of thing. You also end up with, you know, the folks that not only like that, but you know, are interested in the first year because they're looking for something for their collection, or maybe they have a perfectly white, you know, brilliant white blazer, but they don't have one with toning, and so they want, you know, to get another version or another example, I should say, in their collection. And so, you know, these things will hold up in value, maybe even go up more than its counterpart. Oftentimes in interesting holders, look for the same type of thing, and this is a case with these two coins. So these are just exactly the same thing. These are two 1 ounce silver American Eagles, and these were from 1993. The first two I showed were both from 86 out of this box, so that's an 86, and that is also, I don't know if you can make that out on the camera, but it is an 86. These are both 93s, and as we open these up to show you what's in there, maybe with the coin I can just kind of prop it up, but these are also toned. Wow, I mean, just purple, blue purple all the way, and probably the cardboard or cardstock that this is made out of, and this ink. There's a red ink and there's a purple ink on this cardboard, and sitting in here since '93, just in that amount of time, it has made the entire edge of this coin a dark purple all the way around. I mean, it is, I don't know if you can see it on camera very well. The back may be a little more visible to you. You can kind of see the purple ring around there, but it's just, you know, it probably doesn't do it justice in person. It's just beautiful. Anyway, gorgeous coin. Put this back in here where it went, where it was. Proof, Franklin half. And again, they've got it in this kind of what I think is, you know, contains PVC, and so you may be able to tell, but there is a amount of toning on there, and it's just a wild color. Wherever, maybe a lot of it had to do with climate and the part of the country they're in, or if they were smokers as they were storing this coin. If it stayed with one person, you know, sometimes that'll create more of a black kind of tarry look around them. You see that on a lot of the old P&D mint sets that came in cardboard boards, because, you know, back in the 40s and 50s when those first started coming out, I mean, people were, you know, still pretty heavily smoking no matter who you were. People were puffing away on their cigarettes and, you know, didn't even, I think, recognize the health issues that came with that. But anyway, this is a 58 proof. I think I got this for just over spot as well, and these proof coins, I mean, they're very desirable. You get really good resale on these, and at the very, this is better than just melt value. I mean, there isn't a mark on this coin other than toning. So really gorgeous addition to the collection. I'll get that properly stored in a flip. And then this looks like, it almost looks like a graded. I got a little bit of currency too, guys, and some people give me a hard time for, you know, getting into the currency stuff, because I am a collector, not just a stacker. But this is an absolutely perfect example of a 35, and it has a pretty good, it's a 35 silver certificate with really good color in the blue. You can see, I mean, it is deep, and there is, you know, there's a crease here, and I think there's 2 of these here, or maybe 3. I have to look. You can date these based on who that was and how many years, you know, they were there, and what you find out is, you know, this series says 35D. This would have started in 1935, but unlike coins where they mint them for that year and then put a new year on the next, I mean, they might have run this series all the way up into the 50s until they came out with something new, or even the 60s. I got to look back at the silver certificates and see what the story is with them, but these are in really good shape. Well, there's multiple of them here, so 3 or more. This one has numerous 7s across it, and then none of them are star notes, but you can kind of tell. One of the interesting things about these notes as well, there's no motto. If you look at a dollar bill today, it would say, "In God We Trust." Actually, I think I have. I do. 57. Yeah, here you go. So this is what they used to look like, and they said, "In God We Trust," right here. Well, 1935 and before, they didn't have it on there, and I think in 35 they actually added it. So there might be some 35s that have it. I have to do a little more research on this, but for the most part, I get these because, you know, if somebody's offering them for $1, this isn't really well centered, but it's got kind of a fat margin at the top, as you can see. But this one's really nice. Well, this one also isn't perfectly centered, but really crisp. You know, one little corner fold here. And, you know, if I can get these things for $1 or $2, max maybe $3, you know, they pretty easily sell for $5 to $10, and there's people looking for those to add to their collection all the time. So when I see them, I'll pick them up, usually, you know, turn around and help me cover some of the costs on the other stuff I'm getting. That's kind of my MO, is, you know, to what I call high grade my collection. Now this one, you know, I've got a 1935 like this. This is a star note. So if you notice, this is what they call a replacement note, and that means that the first, instead of a letter before the serial number, there's a little asterisk there. And if you see that, I don't know if you can make that out on the camera with the way the lighting is, but that's what that bill looks like. And again, no motto. What's interesting about this is, probably a ton of them made. When a bill would, end up coming out of circulation because there was an error, it was ripped at the mint or whatever, they would replace it, and the way they marked the replacements is with a star. So these star notes became collectible because they're sort of an oddity, something interesting about them. And so, I've got a couple of those in the collection, and what I'll do is, see if this is mintier, crisper, cleaner, less, if mine may have a fold in it or something, and if this one doesn't, then I'll put this one in my collection and take the one with the fold and move it along, or keep it for the couple bucks it costs. Anyway, that was it, and I hope you guys enjoyed the unboxing. There is a big pile of goodies here. Quite a lot in these 3 boxes. That was about a week's worth of, research and looking at, pricing, and, for every one thing that you see me get here, I probably had a bid out on, 10 or 15 other things that, just went beyond what price I was comfortable paying. So, but you end up with your stack. I probably end up taking about half of what you see here and moving it on to try to cover most, if not all, of the out-of-pocket costs that I had on, kind of adding to the collection, adding to the stack, and then with what remains, just add it to the collection, and for a rainy day, wait for the fiat dollar to collapse, and then go dig it up out of grandma's backyard and cash it in, or leave it to the kids someday or whatever. But anyway, enjoy stacking. Been doing it for a while, and maybe give you guys a little bit of a history. My father is a philatelic dealer, so philatelics is stamps and numismatics is coins. And back in so I was born in the 70s, but in the 80s, really growing up, and as a kid, where I knew kind of what the stuff, started seeing what the stuff was, going out with Dad on the weekends, we'd hit up the local stamp and coin shop at the corner, and actually, if we were visiting the grandparents, his folks, or whatever, what we'd find is, kind of any town you were in back then, any major area, had at least one stamp and coin store, corner kind of in the strip mall, or some store location. And so what you'd end up with is guys that were interested. My father was a collector back then. It was before he was really functioning as a dealer. His collection grew to the size where he just needed to start auctioning stuff off, and kind of made a business out of it for himself, and has a passion about it. He loves stamps, but the stamps were, although interesting and exciting and cool and finding unique stuff. I remember when the Scott's catalog came out with a upside down plane on the front, and it was like, "Hey, Dad, what's that?" That's an error that's worth millions. So you find one of those, it could be a life-changing event. But I would look and never found one. Looking through the case, looking through little envelopes of stamps that I would buy when I was out with him. Mostly getting junk stamps and. But what I would look at in the cabinets when I would go in there is that there was all kinds of this shiny stuff, these shiny metal objects, gold and silver, and it always caught my attention. And so by the mid-90s, when I was old enough to start, making a little bit of money and socking some away, and this goes back to, spot price around $200 for an ounce of gold, and I can't even recall where silver was without looking it up, but significantly lower than we are today. And so I would take kind of each paycheck every 2 weeks or month, and I'd buy an ounce of gold, or I would buy a couple tenths of ounce of gold, or silver coin like a Morgan or something, and actually kept doing that for better part of a dozen years. And what ended up happening in 2008, just like everybody else, great economic crisis came, and needed to cash in, and gold prices at that point, I had a sort of an investment around the 200 range, and gold prices were around 600. and so or maybe 6.5, and so traded in a good portion of the stack, if not all of it, to kind of hit the reset button a little bit, and I wish I had that stuff back, but I needed it to weather the storm. And it's a good example, real life example of wealth preservation, savings. And you look at what the dollar would have bought me in the way of a house in late 90s when I bought my first house. The same exact house would have cost me 3 times the amount of money, and the gold. If I had dollars in the bank or dollars in my backyard or in my pocket or in my mattress, I would have needed them to multiply by 3, which they would not do sitting in the mattress, in order to buy the same house that $1 bought me in the late 90s. And that gold, however, was worth 3 times as much. So 10 to 12 years later, the same ounce of gold would buy the same amount of goods as it would 12 years later, even though the dollar only bought about a third as much. So there's a real life example of why I believe in and am a firm advocate of some amount of wealth preservation or protection in precious metals. And I like doing it this way because it's sort of hobby-like, but there's a community of stackers and collectors, etc. But for the most part, it's also a real life way to hedge against inflation, and certainly something that can protect you, in a situation where the economy goes bust, and there's a lot of indications that we may be headed back in that direction. I mean, as long as we have a fiat dollar, and ever since they've stopped having the dollar backed by anything real, the risk of that has continued to mount and increase, and at some point, it'll hit a breaking, in my opinion, a breaking point, and we will see this stuff right here go up in value tremendously. So, likely you're in a position where if you have some of this stuff or you like some of this stuff, maybe you're just starting out, start finding stuff that you can stack, at spot price or below, or even a little bit above. But, personally, I like silver more than gold today. I like them both. I'm a gold bug, as they say, but more of a silver stacker today than a gold bug. And I guess the reason for that is that I think that there's a disparity between the valuation of the two metals, and I think there's about as much of each above ground, but with some of the industrial uses on silver, as well as numerous other factors, I believe that you end up with a superior potential for return on your invested dollar in silver than you do on gold today. That's just my personal opinion, not financial advice, but food for thought. Anyway, guys, thanks for sticking with me for so long. If you're still watching this, you must have found something in here that you liked looking at, or you're interested in what I'm saying. Leave me a comment below. Hit subscribe, pound the like button, wherever that stuff is. Appreciate you, and we'll talk next time.